Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Fat Loss Game podcast. In today's episode, I have an absolute badass mom. She is one of the most inspiring women I have ever met and seen in the gym, busting her ass off. And I am so excited to have her as our guest on today's episode. So, Amanda, tell me, when did you first start your fitness journey?
I started initially post having my first baby in 2014, um, but it evolved because raising kids and things like that. So I think officially was 2018 when my second child was a year old, and that's when I had to change something. I had to get in gear and get myself back on track because after the second baby, and that's when I really needed to hold in and get my journey started.
Well, I like that you mentioned both because I think most people, they start their fitness or weight loss journey. And, when you first start, you're like not really committed, but you're kind of going to the gym, you're kind of eating healthy, but then you fall off. And I know even for me, this is true. It takes multiple attempts to get to the point where you're like, okay, this time, like I'm committed. Like this time,
Yeah.
this is for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I 100%.
So, but I'm
Especially with
curious.
that.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry. No, especially with that starting over, and getting back on track, and regardless if it's once or 20 times, you got to start back over.
100%. And I'm curious. So, the first time in 2014 when you had your first baby, I know
Mhm.
you said it technically started then. I mean, you didn't fully commit till 2018, but in 2014, what did you try?
That was I would go to the gym, and I feel like I had a trainer here and there, but I really would just go in and do what I thought I should do. I would just do machine weights, do a little cardio. I was really into the arc trainer, so I did a lot of time on the arc trainer. I just really didn't know. I didn't have a plan. I just would go and just get out of the house, I guess, bring my baby to, and that I definitely for sure at that time I was just more or less about moving my body and moving post having a child and that kind of thing. But I definitely didn't have like a set plan. I just would go and wing it. I did a lot of the abductor machine, I think, because I felt like I could do that really good. So I remember that. So
Hey, you know
because
what?
I just was super intimidated.
The fact that you even got into the gym is already a win. So, was that the first gym membership that you ever had?
Oh, yeah, I believe so. Like where I actually went, because I've had memberships, but I wouldn't go. I just wouldn't go, and then after a while, so I definitely could say I've had memberships where I just didn't go. So I
So,
definitely use that membership.
this is the first gym membership you actually used. Were
Yes,
you scared to start?
100%, 100%. Um, Luckily, I had my brother-in-law at the time was a trainer, so he would guide me, and he got me comfortable with the gym because I was so scared. I think without his guidance, I I I wouldn't have gone. I honestly wouldn't have gone on my own self because it was just super intimidating. I I definitely think that.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, I think having that trainers that is obviously so helpful. So, I mean, we can't rewrite history, but if you were to go back to 2014 and like you did want to get in shape and you didn't know anyone that was a trainer, what do you think you could have done to help you ease the fear of getting back or just starting in the gym?
I would ask questions. I would be like more forth in asking and not worrying about judgment because I think that was a big barrier. It was judgment. It's that fear, the fear of what if I ask the wrong question, or what if they think I can't help this person? Like, just all the things that just run in your mind. I think that was huge for me, is fear. And I would now, I wouldn't be afraid to ask anybody anything. I don't care. Even at the gym now, I go up to someone like, dang girl, you look good. Like, I don't care because I feel how important that is to help that fear, because you don't know.
I like your confidence now is incredible because of how you've described to me in the past how shy you've been. But so if someone's listening to this and they are in the position of when you first started where they don't have a gym membership, or they do but they are scared to go, and they don't know anybody, like they don't know anyone that's a trainer, they don't anyone that know anyone that's knowledgeable, who do they ask? Like, where do you think that they should start?
Now it's so awesome because there are people like you that put content out. I refer to that because even myself, there's so many things now that you could look up. At the time, like 2014, I think that's when Instagram was kind of just popping off. So it wasn't the content then compared to now is insane. So I do think finding someone that you identify with and that you could get ideas, because I still do that now. Food ideas, hair ideas, makeup ideas. It's so cool that you can utilize social media, especially if you're nervous or have fear or shy. Because sometimes too, if you find someone you um, identify with, you feel like you're friends, like us. I feel like I know you. You're so positive and put such great content out that it can only help you, especially if you like the person.
I so agree. I think finding someone that you identify with is so important, like without a doubt. I mean, and I know even with me, people have told me that like, I've been told a lot, oh, you look intimidating, like you're very fit. And I understand how that can be, there can be a barrier there because it's not relatable, especially when somebody's starting out. You know what I mean? And so I think like finding somebody that you can relate to is very helpful because you don't feel that judgment. You know what I mean?
100%.
But that's why I love
100%.
your content too, because you show all aspects of your journey. And like obviously you are very much more into the thick movement. And I think any woman who is all about that, like they can relate to you. And I think that's amazing. And I think there's so much, there's so many different fitness types out there that you can totally find,
100%.
something that meshes with you. So I love that advice.
Yeah, then you, if you're that shy, you just don't feel intimidated, and or the cool part is if there's a certain workout, like you record workouts sometimes, save the workout, pull it up at the gym, and you could follow the workout, and no one know, everyone's on their phone anyway, it doesn't matter now, like, it's not a faux pas. You could just save that workout and just do it, If I had something like that too, I feel like I would've been a little bit more confident.
Yeah, I think
Because Pinterest
leveraging
was a thing. I think I was a Pinterest workout in 2014. It was like abs.
I so remember those. Yeah, they like have the block pictures. I totally followed those too.
Same, same. I think like literally I had boards of Pinterest, different things, abs, legs, cardio, gluten-free food idea.
Yeah, Pinterest was definitely the thing back in the day, without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah,
So after you started working with your did you say brother-in-law?
yeah. My brother-in-law.
Okay. So after you started working with your brother-in-law, how long did you stick with it?
We were pretty good for a while. My hardest part with sticking to it, it was just life. Having a new baby, and then my husband at the time, his job required him to deploy at least one time a year. So he would be gone for 3, 6, or 9 months at a time. So I just had a baby, and then he would jet set, and so it would just be me and the baby. So it was really hard trying to get that going. Luckily, it was when my brother-in-law, sometimes I could take the baby with me. So I have videos and pictures of her in the stroller while we're working out. Me and him are working out, you know? So I made a way, um, not as consistent, but we still got at least a couple times a week. So that was huge.
That's amazing. As a essentially a single new mom that you were still able to
Yeah.
make into the gym a few times a week.
Yeah. That was huge just to even feel better. Because after having a baby, your emotions are wild. Your the emotions are wild. And um I definitely was an emotional mess after I had my baby because there's so many things. My husband deploying, so I was by myself, and he was deploying into the Middle East, and it was terrifying, terrifying. So uh, it was just everywhere. My mind was everywhere. My emotions were everywhere. I cried a lot. I cried a lot.
But you were I mean, I love that you were still able to make that commitment to your fitness journey and still bring your baby with you. So you stayed with your brother-in-law trainer for how long?
For a while, and then um, he decided to get out of personal training and he got into real estate. So that was a change for me as well, where I had to kind of pivot and change things up. So at that time, I was more again back on my own. And then, so we were a couple years, couple years, I was able to be on a good track. So then when I got pregnant with my second baby, I was in better shape and I was okay for the next baby.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know you were with him for a few years. That's a great commitment.
Yeah, he was a huge part, like just introducing me to the gym and essentially because that was big for me.
So when you started working with him, did you also change your eating habits?
Yes, I did. I more or less I have PCOS, so I was recommended no gluten, no dairy. So I always try to adhere to that, no matter what. If I'm on a meal plan or not, no gluten, no dairy. So if even if I'm not on plan, I just try to stay away from those things, just for hormone health. And with him, I macro tracked because my life was so chaotic, so it was really hard to adhere to a meal plan. So my fitness pal was very vital into just seeing what I eat. That was a big changer for me to see what I consumed.
Was that the first time you had ever tracked your food?
Yeah, because my biggest thing, I had really bad eating habits growing up. So my biggest thing is not eating. I worked in a nail salon. I did nails before I had babies, and I worked 12-hour days. And I wouldn't eat breakfast. I wouldn't eat lunch, and then I would eat like a late lunch, about 2 in the afternoon, and just scarf down food. And then I didn't get off till 7, and then I would eat like at 9 p.m. So I would eat like 1.5 meals a day. So I went from like super, super bad, like bad eating, not eating enough or eating too much in just in 2 meals late night.
I feel like that's
So
very common.
that was my hugest thing is just not eating. So I thought too, I'm like, well, I don't eat a lot, so I'm not gonna gain weight. I just didn't have a good like mindset for like eating properly. And I just thought, the old mindset is like, if you don't eat a lot, then you won't gain weight. But my body just fought me harder and just held on to everything.
So when you started working with the trainer and you started to track your eating habits,
Yeah.
was your goal at that time to lose weight?
Yes.
So I'm assuming, did he tell you that you had to eat more?
Yeah. And he told me to eat consistently because I wasn't eating breakfast. Well, after the baby, I did eat like more often because I was breastfeeding, but I still didn't eat a lot. I just was so scared of like food. I just, I thought if you don't eat, you don't gain weight. So it was this huge, like, brain like thing when I macro tracked, and we actually, I want to say we're eating 2,200 calories a day. So when you put whole foods in, I had a high caloric diet. I felt like I was eating so much, and it freaked me out because I was like, what? Like, I didn't know dieting was like, or like tracking your food could be like that. I always thought I would have to eat just to lose weight. It blew my mind.
So many women are scared to eat more for that exact reason.
That was huge for me. It freaked me out. And then I was losing weight, and I was like, "What? We're eating more and we're losing weight?" Because I genuinely thought I had to eat small portions and no food, like, I was okay with not having breakfast and lunch, like, I was okay with it, my body was used to it, so I thought that was a good thing that I was used to not eating. I was like, "Okay," and I never second guessed it.
I love God, I love that. I hope anyone listening to this who does struggle with under eating or not eating enough takes this as your sign that you can lose weight and eat more.
100%, 100%, and when you do track your food, I strongly always suggest that even to friends that are like, "I don't know where to start." Track your food and see what you are eating, and most of the times, friends that track their food, they are under eating. Most of the time, and it blows their mind. They're like, "I can't believe it." Or when you eat one meal, like if you're eating a lot of like processed foods or fast foods, and they're like, "Wow, I did not ever realize that was a 2,200 calorie meal." Like a lunch, and I'm like, "Yeah, girl, that was your food for the day." So it goes both ways. That's either like, "Whoa, this way," or "Whoa, that way."
Yeah, I love it. I've seen that experience as well. But I love that you had that experience and you can speak on, hey, you can't eat more and lose weight. So
Oh, yeah.
you did start tracking, you were working out with him, but I know you said you didn't really get serious about your fitness journey until 2018. So what
Yeah.
was different about 2018 compared to what you were doing before?
Girl. So 2018, my youngest was a year old by this time. And I got another gym membership because my other gym membership, I closed it, had a lot going on, new baby, everything. So then I got a new gym membership. They had a 3D body scan. It was called a Staiku. And they just were like, "Hey, let's do your kickoff. Let's do a body scan." And I was like, "Cool." And this was a year post having a baby. I go do the 3D body scan. Oh my gosh. This was something for me, and it still blew my mind. So, for that whole year post having baby, the scale didn't change. I was stayed the same weight. So I was like, "Oh, I'm not gaining weight. Awesome." I didn't realize till I did the body scan, I was gaining mass. So in my head, I'm not gaining weight because the scale's not changing, but I was not working out or anything like that, and I was gaining mass. And I didn't see it until I saw that 3D body scan. blew my mind. It freaked me out. I did not realize, like, that was my realization moment. Wow, look where I am. That's my heaviest and biggest. It gets me emotional because it was embarrassing. I did not realize that's where I was physically, because I don't see myself that way. Like, maybe it's like body. I think I joke around. I have reverse body dysmorphia. Like, on Instagram, I'll see a dress. I'm like, oh, I'll buy that, and I'll buy it. And I'm like, oh, just kidding. Who are you thinking like you could wear that? Like, because it doesn't even fit or look good. Like, I always think that I'll look good in whatever. So um that was my game changing moment. And at that time as well, being the heaviest is really embarrassing. I've actually never really talked about it. I had a second knee surgery, and the first one was in 2013. It was an accident. Second one, I was getting out of the car and I just stepped to the right, and my mass went over my knee, and I tore my ACL getting out of the car. And I thought, I was like, oh, I have bad knees, but it was also another like pivotal moment in my journey when I went to go see the ortho. He asked me the situation and I explained it to him. And he kind of explained it that way, is like, you have so much mass moving over the top of your knee and it just tore. So that was all at the same time. So when I got the body scan, I think I was about 4 weeks post-op. So those big things happen. And I know the knee injury was from being extremely overweight. It was embarrassing. And that was huge because I stepped out of the car. Like, I remember when it happened, and my husband's like, how? You're just stepping out of the car. And I don't know. I jacked up my knee. We have to go home. It was just the wildest thing.
I can only imagine what you felt in that moment.
It's so many emotions. It was embarrassing. It was super embarrassing. It was very humbling. Um, but also sometimes for myself as a person, I take those moments and like learn from it. How can we fix this? So those two big red flags were waving to me like, girl, get it together. And that's when I just really just stepped into it.
So after those two moments, what did you change in your lifestyle? What did you do differently?
Gym, gym, consistently with the gym, rain or shine. I did get another trainer at Crunch. And then I would go in, even if I didn't know what I was doing or whatever, I would go in. I would get a routine. I got my eating habits. Also, because of the knee injury, they were really pushing like rehab, like getting my knee, you know, back on track. So they were really good at like motivating me. They're like, the more you go to the gym, the faster you'll heal, the faster you'll feel better. Your knee will be strong again. So I took that advice and I ran with it. I wasn't going to do that to myself again. No more knee injuries. That was the second one. I don't wish knee stuff on anybody. It's the worst. It's awful.
So was that your like rock bottom moment where you were like, I'm changing
100%.
everything?
100%. It makes me emotional because it was awful. It was in complete rock bottom. It was the worst. But I'm happy, like, now looking back, because that really motivated me to get it together. Because there's because at that time too, like I said, I was so overweight. Like, it was hard getting down on the floor with my babies and playing with them. I had a 2 year old and now a 1 year old, and that was hard. I couldn't keep up with them at the park. I couldn't, and my husband deployed, so I thought all the time, was like, what if something happened to them? I can't run. I can't, like, I'm not fast enough. Like, there's all those things, all those intrusive thoughts really, really, they get to you. They get to you. So that was also a huge motivator. Is always my babies.
When you started going back to the gym, like when you said you'd go rain or shine, what type of workouts did you do? Did you do cardio? Did you do weightlifting? Did you do both?
So that was a huge learning curve for me too, because I did have a trainer and we did try and figure my body out. I did a lot of hit workouts because that was like hit was like a huge thing. Burn lots of calories in a short amount of time. Got to get back home to the babies, and they would kick my booty. They would get it, And um, so those were good, like endorphin wise. I had good endorphin release or whatever, but my body, my PCOS, now that I know, not good for it. It raised my cortisol levels too high and I wouldn't lose weight. So I was killing myself and it wasn't. So it was a lot of learning curves at first, is to figure out what I respond to in my body. So
I've definitely seen that with women I've worked with too who have PCOS where hit is not the move. So, can you talk about what type of workouts have worked for you in terms of helping you lose weight?
it's funny because it sounds the opposite of what you would think, like, you know, cardio, different things, slow weighted workouts, 100% advocated for all day. Heavy lifting really, really is where my body started transforming. Heavy lifting helps me, weightlifting, and more rest days. I was going to the gym 5, 6 days a week, but now, depending on how I feel, if I'm tired, I listen and I rest because I respond better. My body responds better. It's
What
huge.
what do you think is the ideal number of workouts per week that your body likes?
At least four. At least four. I feel really good with four and like a good 3 rest days. If I feel really good, I could push it, but I also mind what I do in the gym. If I pushed it really hard for the first 2 days, and that kind of I play on how I feel the next few days and how I'll push myself those days.
So with the like slow weighted workouts, do you do any type of cardio on top of that?
Walking, nothing too crazy. I do notice that when I push it too hard, if I do, even this depends on how I feel that week. Uh, I'll feel it. I feel more inflamed. I like, my tummy feels bloated. I feel it in my body. I've gotten to know my body so well. I know how to, like, if I push myself too much or not. So walking. And it's so good for the mind, so good for in general. So I do a lot of walking.
I am a huge fan of walking, especially for PCOS, but yes, I could not agree with you more. Especially the mind. It's insane how much it impacts your mental health.
100%. That's why I was really excited when hot girl walks became a thing because it's so true. It's so true. Like I love it. I tell everybody, even my neighbors. I have a neighbor, she's in her 70s, and I text her, hey girl, you want to go on a hot girl walk? And she'll go with me. And I've got her in on it too. And it's amazing. My daughters love hot girl walks.
That's incredible. And so on top of the slow weighted workouts and the walking, so I know that, in the very beginning you weren't eating enough, then you started eating more consistently, you bumped your calories up to 2200. I'm assuming that with the second pregnancy, did you fall back into old habits, eating habits?
Oh, 100%. If not with vengeance, because like I said, I, the scale wasn't changing, but I grew mass, like my belly, I just grew mass, my arms, and I didn't realize it. So I, because of that, like trickery, I ate like crap because I was like, I'm not gaining weight. I could have cookies. I love Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper. It's awful, So I was like, it's not affecting anything. The scale's not changing. So I justified it in my head because the scale wasn't changing, that I wasn't gaining weight and I wasn't realizing gaining mass. I was just so jaded by the scale that so I had that habit. I ate cookies and like I said, Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper, so I would drink Dr. Pepper a lot.
Did you go back to under eating, but under eating junk food, or were you consistently eating, like, did you struggle with overeating at all?
Yes, I struggle with struggled after like this baby. Like I said, I think that whole deal with like the scale not changing. So I felt like I could have more food. It was crazy. I went from like under eating to like having more food because the scale wasn't changing. So I was like, oh dang, okay, I can have two servings or like those things. So I went from like not eating because of my schedule wouldn't allow it or permit it to overeating because I thought my body it wasn't changing, it wasn't affecting anything. So I was like, cool, we can
Got
we can have more food, girl. Feed your body. Like that's what I was telling myself. We're breastfeeding, it's okay.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you went from under eating to eating healthy to second pregnancy, overeating. So
Yeah.
when hit rock bottom and you changed your eating habits, were you tracking your food or were you just like no tracking, just eating healthy, gluten-free, dairy-free?
I that gets a little tricky, but I was tracking. I was tracking where I was going, but if there was times that was just so crazy with two new baby, a new like a 1 year old and a 2 year old, I definitely would adhere to the no gluten, no dairy because I knew absolutely that those are no nos for my body. So I would adhere to that 100%, like as much as I could.
So it sounds like you would do your best to track when you could, but then when things got
Yes,
hectic, then you just try to eat healthy, no gluten, no dairy, right?
yes, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So throughout your journey, I mean, it sounds like you did hit first and now you're doing slow weighted workouts, but it sounds like, ultimately it really is just being consistent in the gym, making healthier choices, and then tracking your food if your lifestyle permits. And throughout all of this, what do you feel like has been your biggest obstacle?
For me, with everything, like my biggest obstacle has always been fear. Fear, like, with all that I've done, because fear to get started and then fear because I hurt myself, you know what I mean? And then fear for being there for my girls, like that is always there. Like it's just always there somehow. Like, so I get in my head a lot and I definitely just want to be so good too. And it's hard for me not to just get what I want, like even body wise. It's hard not to lose 20 pounds when you're working so hard. It's hard not to have big, beautiful glutes, like with me working so hard. You know what I'm saying? Like all the things that you want are a small waist or all those things. It's hard. It's hard, like wanting it so bad and it's not happening. It's hard.
So it sounds like fear and just being patient.
Patient, 100% being patient with myself and being proud of the littlest things. I think if you see like on like the way I do things, I do a lot of comparisons because for the longest of time, those were the things that kept me motivated. Because if you go by scale, sometimes you don't see nothing. You don't see anything. So I do a lot of comparisons because that's what keeps me motivated. And even if it's the littlest of change, I I that'll help me. That'll carry me miles. So
I totally agree. You're especially because 'cause you're so right, the scale, it she does not wanna move, like, she does not wanna budge. But
it's
photos
the
photos
worst.
photos say so much more. And so it sounds like how you were able to overcome the patience issue was, like you said, finding any comparison you could with progress photos and like finding even the smallest changes and the smallest wins as confirmation that, hey, this is working. You are doing the right thing. Don't give up, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So in terms of
Even
the,
if it's,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, even if it's just an inch, a little thing, or just see your glutes tighter, whatever it is, that just one little thing, if you could hold on to that and just make it better or go on to that, that was huge.
Mm. And you know what? It's funny because I do the same thing, especially as you go on in your journey, progress gets slower and slower. And
Yeah.
so really learning
The
how to,
newbie gains, the
yeah,
newbie gain phase where you're just like, just all of a sudden you just get, when you get your sauce and you just like make so much progress, and then all of a sudden you're just like, it's hard that part to like to go from the newbie gain phase to not getting that huge, like a huge change. You know that.
I very well know that part. You got to look for the tiniest wins. And I think a lot of people who, are in their beginning phase, or honestly, I think most people are in their this phase where they want to make a change in their lifestyle, whether it's for weight loss or not, just to feel better. But like you said, it's fear that holds, I'm going to say, everybody back. It really is fear. There's so much that the human mind tricks us into being scared of. So how did you overcome that fear?
So now I use that fear to drive me to get to my goals. I stopped being just scared of fear and like stopped letting it hold me back. And now I use it to drive my goals. One of the biggest things that came up is throughout the journey, I would see a preventative breast cancer specialist since I was 26 years old every 6 months. And with that, um, I got genetic testing done. And I went from just family history because my mom was 38 years old when she had breast cancer. So one of the biggest things from seeing the preventative breast specialist was lose weight. Lose weight because obesity higher your chances of breast cancer. But then we did the genetic testing and I had a marker for moderate breast cancer. So that was instant fear because I'm like, I'm getting breast cancer. I just did all the things. I got terribly scared. And then that's when I drove that home. I'm like, okay, we're not getting breast cancer. What do we do? So that even pushed me more to want to lose weight. So when I made goals and people ask me what's your goal, and it's like to not get breast cancer. So I went from wanting to be skinny and also for my girls, but because my mom was 38 when she passed away from breast cancer, now I have babies. I have to be here for my babies. So that was the big driver. And then when I got the testing done, when they said you have a moderate breast cancer gene, I was like, okay, now what can we do? What's the next step? So I was scared because you think of all these things. But I was 33 when they told me I had that breast cancer gene, and my mom was 38 when she passed. So all those numbers are feel that fear more, but I used it to take charge of my health and push more, get the preventative mastectomy. So when that became a thing, that's what I used to not get breast cancer. That was my goal now, is to not get breast cancer because then all the other things fell in line behind it.
So it sounds like you had two fears at play, and I love what you said about using your fear. So it sounds like the first fear was getting breast cancer, and then I'm assuming you didn't say this, but I can assume the second fear is getting a double mastectomy. And obviously they are two opposing things. So it sounds like what
Yes.
you did was you used your fear of getting breast cancer to drive you so much more than the fear of getting the double mastectomy. So you leveraged your fear of the breast cancer to drive you to take action. And I think we can parallel that to your fitness journey where you're scared to go to the gym or you're scared to make changes or you're scared to be judged. But your fear of when you stepped out of your car and you tore your ACL, the fear of what's going to happen if I keep going like I am, what are the consequences if I continue the habits that I am, you used that fear to drive you. So even though you maybe were scared to go into the gym and to work out and to be judged, your fear of what where your life could take you was higher, and you use that to drive you, so that even though this fear was still existent, this one was bigger to you. And you know what you said? I love you said, I stopped being scared of fear. And that's
Yeah.
huge, because I think so many of us, we feel fear and we immediately think, oh, if I feel scared, then I should be scared. I should be scared of this feeling. But instead, you said, I'm scared and I'm not going to let that scare me. Like, I feel scared, but I'm not going to let that make me scared. It's just a feeling. And it sounds like you learned how to be friends with that feeling instead of making it your enemy.
And it goes back to kind of how we started. You said, how would you have done things different? And I said, like, look things up, research. So when I had this decision in front of me, I knew how to handle it. I asked questions. I didn't take one doctor's opinion. I went to plenty of doctors. There was so many things at play, but I think old me, I would have been scared. I don't think I would have moved forward. But I had the guts now. I had the courage to look further. And I feel like that all ties together. Because initially I wasn't that girl. I wouldn't have asked questions. I would have took it for fact and kept getting monitored or whatever. But now I grabbed it by the literal balls and I'm not gonna let it take over. And I attribute that to all of the hardships to get to where I am there, because I was able to do that, had the courage and everything. And I do think it's starting from there.
Every action that you make out of courage adds up. You know,
100%.
and I'm sure this has been your experience, but you know that even just facing your fear of going to the gym gives you a level of courage and confidence that now, like you said, you bring that to your potential breast cancer. And so, perhaps had you not have conquered the fear of going to the gym, you wouldn't have been that person to be able to handle that situation, just like you said. So, I mean, for anyone listening to this who really does struggle with fear, it really does start by taking one step in the direction of courage of whatever you're scared of. And it doesn't even have to be a huge step, something that feels scary, but not so overwhelming where, you're going to have a panic attack. But any step in the direction of courage into the fear is, in my belief, the only way that we get over it. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on overcoming fear. Would you agree?
I agree 100%. And just step into that. And it sounds like very simple as to ask questions, but it's something that could ease your heart, ease your mind. It just something that could just make you feel so good. And if you have an idea of where you want to go, lead with that. Lead with that. Because when they had told me about my options, when Angelina Jolie back in the day did a preventative mastectomy, friends had asked me, would you ever do that? And I said, no way. That's so extreme. There's no way I would do that. But so many things changed in that amount of time. And I was like, ooh, let's look into that again. Let's research that. So then now my idea changed. And if because my idea changed, I stepped into that and I really looked into it. So if you even have this inkling of what you want to do for yourself, step into that and go with that because you know yourself, you know what you want.
That is beautiful. I could not agree more. Now, before we end this episode, I want to ask you if you were to talk to you back in 2014, and again, let's say you didn't have a brother who was a trainer, what would you tell yourself as someone who is wanting to start their weight loss journey, but is absolutely terrified and has no idea where to start?
I think I would definitely, if I could tell myself, the biggest thing was don't limit yourself and believe in yourself because those things have got me so far to where I am. Because the belief, it just changes everything when you definitely believe in yourself and trust yourself. It is so huge, especially in a fitness journey. If you don't know anything about it, it is hard to trust that you're doing the right thing, whatever. But it's good to know where you are and like what you want to do, and then you could believe you could do it. Because if you don't believe that you're in yourself, it's really hard to get to the next even step. That's so huge.
And I would say to add on to that,
Mhm.
finding people that have been in your shoes who have gotten to the goal that you want to get to, use that as proof that if they can do it, you can too, because we are all humans. We're all made of flesh and blood. There is absolutely nothing different about someone else and why they can do it, but you can't. If someone else in your shoes has done it, that is a clear sign that you absolutely can too.
I agree with that 100%. Find someone like you that's gonna hype you up. I literally, girl, I have a video of Zach and I squatting and I'm dying and I have you in the background. You're like, heck yeah, like get it. It's like I have you in the background.
That's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. I should tag you in it, you know, because you're like that motivated me. So sometimes too is just let go and make friends. It's so fun to make gym friends that hype you up. That will carry you through the hardest days.
And I will say, if you do struggle with gym intimidation, people are a lot more open to making friends than you think. Everybody is in their own bubble, but Amanda, you are very good at this where you extend the hand first. You give the compliment first. You tell people, "Oh my gosh, you look so cute." And that's all people are waiting for. Like everyone's scared to make the first move. And so
Mhm.
again, it's all about stepping into the fear and being courageous and being the first person to say like, "Hey, you look great," or like, just making conversation with someone at the gym you see all the time. Like you feel self-conscious about it, but I can tell you right now, so does the other person.
Even the bodybuilders that have the most beautiful physiques in the world, they got their own self-conscious things too. It blows my mind. I'm like, girl, I feel small. Like, whatever their feelings are too. So they they suffer too. And in your mind, you're like, how? Why? And everyone does.
Everyone does. And I think, it's so easy to think we're the ones who are self-conscious and everybody else is confident, but everybody struggles with it. Absolutely everybody.
I agree.
Well, thank you so, so much, Amanda, for joining me today. It was a pleasure. It was such a pleasure just getting to know you because for anyone listening, I always see Amanda at the gym. She's like freaking screaming. She's crying during her set. She pushes so hard. Well, truly say, I've never worked as hard as you do in the gym in my life. Like, I don't even think I want to be honest. Um, you work so hard, but it's been such a pleasure to actually get to know you on a deeper level. So thank you so, so much for joining me.
Thank you. And thank you for what you do. You're incredible. And I think your message that you spread and the information is so beautiful on all aspects of fitness. So thank you for having me. I freaking love you.
Oh, I love you too. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. And I will definitely see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.